Hi, I'm Lori Rosakis. Welcome to Video Aided Instructions Upgrade Your Writing series. This is the fifth program in the series, Building Paragraphs. First of all, what is a paragraph? A paragraph is a group of sentences that all relate to a single main idea or a central point. You can tell what a paragraph looks like because you know that it's indented 5 spaces on your page. But it's more than just indentation. A paragraph has 3 main parts. It has a topic sentence, a supporting sentence or sentences, and a concluding sentence. Here's how it looks visually. You've got your topic sentence, then your supporting sentences, and then your concluding sentence. It sort of looks like a hamburger almost, where your topic sentence and your bottom concluding sentence are the bun, and your supporting sentences are the meat in between. And you want your meat to be full and juicy so your paragraph or your hamburger tastes good. Another way to remember the 3 main parts of a paragraph are to memorize this old saying. Tell them what you're going to tell them, then tell them what you told them. The first part, tell them what you're going to tell them, is your topic sentence. Then tell them is all of your supporting detail. And then tell them what you told them is your conclusion. How long is a paragraph? Well, a paragraph is as long as you need to get your ideas across. However, the minimum number of sentences is usually 3. Your topic sentence, 1 supporting sentence, and a concluding sentence. If your paragraph has fewer than 3 sentences, it's probably too short. But a paragraph almost always has more than 3 sentences because you want to express yourself and give your ideas clearly. Figure that you're going to have a paragraph of about 4 to 8 sentences in the average essay. That'll give you enough time to explain your ideas. So now what I would like you to do is to pause the program and choose the best topic sentence for this paragraph. You will have 3 choices. Then come back. Choice number 1. Mexico is an interesting country. Well, this statement is completely true. Mexico is a fascinating country. Unfortunately, it has nothing whatsoever to do with the topic, which is the life of Benito Juarez. So as long as it's off the topic, it can't possibly be correct. So you can knock that right out. Number 2, his many reforms made Mexico a fairer, more modern society. Well, that's true, but who is the his? Who is the he? We don't know who you're talking about. We need to know his name. So this becomes a detail, not a topic sentence, so you can't use this one either. The last one, Benito Juarez, 1806 to 1872, is a national hero in Mexico. This sentence is perfect, and the reason is it introduces the main idea, the life of Benito Juarez, and it gets readers interested in the topic, which is why he is so famous in Mexico. So you want to choose number 3 because it accomplishes the 2 purposes of a topic sentence. Topic sentences are so very important because they determine the entire scope of your paragraph. So let's try this again. Pause the program and choose the best topic sentence for this paragraph. You will again have 3 choices. Then come back. Choice 1. Helen Keller was able to learn different ways to communicate. Well, it's true, but it's too specific. Also, we don't know why she had to learn different ways to communicate, so we're missing the main idea. That makes this a very poor topic sentence. Therefore, you can eliminate it. Choice number 2. Helen Keller was a great person and an excellent role model. Completely true. She was a great person, and she was an excellent role model. The problem is this is much too general. It's much too broad. We don't know why she was a great person or why she was a great role model. Choice 3. Helen Keller was 19 months old when she became sick with fever. This is your best choice because it best introduces the topic. In addition, notice that clue word sick with fever. That goes with the phrase sickness in the paragraph. We have the sickness left her without sight or hearing. We have sick and then sickness, so we have unity. The two sentences fit together. So this is the best choice because it introduces the topic and it fits with the sentence that comes after it. So now what I would like you to do is to pause the program and identify the topic sentence, supporting sentences, and concluding sentence in the following paragraph. Then come back. The topic sentence is the first sentence. Water is essential for life on Earth. Then I have 3 supporting sentences. First, water is required for photosynthesis and respiration. Second, water is crucial for human metabolism, allowing organic compounds to carry out replication. Third, water is necessary for enzyme function, especially in human digestion. Then I have my concluding sentence. Wheat may be the staff of life, but water is truly the stuff of life. Now, what about placement of topic sentences? Well, you would expect that the topic sentence would appear at the very beginning of a paragraph. It would be your first sentence. And it usually does. In many, many, many cases, you're going to put that topic sentence first. However, you don't necessarily have to. You can take your topic sentence and you can put it anywhere in your paragraph. You could put it at the beginning, you could put it at the middle, or you could put it at the end. Many writers, many successful writers, place the topic sentence elsewhere, maybe in the middle or maybe in the end, occasionally to give variety to their writing and to create a certain effect. Let's look a little more closely at the places you can put the topic sentence in a paragraph. And then you'll be able to decide whether or not you want to move your topic sentence occasionally to give your writing variety and to make it more interesting. Place the topic sentence in the beginning of a paragraph when you're writing expository or persuasive essays and you want to state your thesis directly. Remember, expository essays are essays that explain. So when you're explaining something or when you're persuading someone, you will usually want to put that topic sentence first to state your thesis clearly. You saw that in the previous examples that we did. Here's another one. One of the main causes of the American Civil War, 1861 to 1865, was slavery. The 11 states that formed the Confederacy depended on slavery to support their economy, using slave labor to produce their crops, especially cotton. On the eve of the war, the North and the South clashed over whether slavery should be permitted in the Western territories recently acquired during the Mexican War, 1846 to 1848, including New Mexico, parts of California, and Utah. Opponents of slavery were concerned about its expansion, in part because they did not want to compete against slave labor. So in this instance, I put my topic sentence first to clearly state to my readers what was going to happen in the rest of my paragraph. Place the topic sentence in the middle of the paragraph when you're writing a descriptive essay and you want to create a sense of balance. Try to place an equal number of sentences or examples above and below the topic sentence. For example, you might have 2 sentences above it and 2 sentences below it, or 3 sentences above it and 3 sentences below it. This helps bring across that idea of balance. Also, try to use parallel structure when you write this way, because this creates a smoother style. So when you have your topic sentence in the middle, go for equality and go for parallelism. Here's an example. She is good. She is good to her family, better to her friends, and best to herself. She is intelligent with her teachers, more intelligent when dealing with her neighbors, and most intelligent when dealing with her employer. Oh, she has many admirable characteristics. She is playful and fun, especially with young children. She is more playful and fun with guests, and most playful and fun with her friends. Yes, she is like a human violin, responding to the touch of circumstances. My topic sentence is right in the middle. Oh, she has many admirable characteristics. Notice I have 2 characteristics on the top and 2 characteristics on the bottom. On the top, I have that she is good and that she is intelligent. On the bottom, I have that she is playful and she is fun. So I've created my sense of balance by 2 above and 2 below. Also, I've used parallel structure. Good to her family, better to her friends, best to herself. More playful and fun with guests, most playful and fun with her friends. So I've paralleled the organization, matched it, to give it a smoother style. This kind of writing takes a little bit more effort because you really have to make very, very conscious choices about numbers of examples and parallelism. But it can give you a very graceful, very smooth, and a very effective style. You can also place your topic sentence at the very end of your paragraph. You're going to want to do this with any kind of essay because it works very well, but it works especially well with narratives and persuasives. Remember that a narrative is a story. Placing the topic sentence at the end of a narrative works so well because you build the suspense to that punchline. That's why a lot of jokes or anecdotes have that punchline. That's the main idea. That's your topic sentence. And you save it for the end to build the suspense. Placing your topic sentence at the end of a paragraph is very effective in arguments as well, because what you do is you present all your details and you build that to your conclusion. This helps you convince your readers because they've had all your proof before they've gotten to your conclusion. Here's an example. The plover is a small wading bird. A crocodile will open its jaws and let the plover enter its mouth safely. Amazingly, the crocodile will not snap its jaws shut. Instead, it patiently allows the plover to eat the small, harmful animals on its teeth. The crocodile gets its teeth clean and the plover gets an easy meal. The relationship between the plover and the crocodile is a perfect example of what scientists call symbiosis. So I've given a series of examples. I have built that to my topic sentence at the end. The relationship between the plover and the crocodile is a perfect example of what scientists call symbiosis. So now what I would like you to do is to pause the program and find the topic sentence in this paragraph. Then come back. The topic sentence is in the middle. Is there something about soccer, as it is played in the United States at this time in history, that goes beyond winning and losing? The answer doesn't come from the game, but from the people who play it. The wave of immigrants to the United States in the last 10 to 15 years has been a big part of the soccer boom. These newcomers have arrived from Central and South America, Africa, and parts of Asia. They've come from countries torn apart by war, poverty, and natural disasters. So I've got my topic sentence right in the middle. The wave of immigrants to the United States in the last 10 to 15 years has been a big part of the soccer boom. I've got examples above it and examples below it. That gives this paragraph a nice sense of balance. So now what I would like you to do is to pause the program and find the topic sentence in this paragraph. Then come back. The topic sentence is the first sentence. The rules of soccer are simple. That's my topic sentence. 2 teams of 11 players each try to get the ball into the other team's goal. You can kick the ball or use your head to move it. No one except the goalkeeper is allowed to touch the ball with hands or arms. So what I've got in this entire paragraph are the rules of soccer. They try to get the ball into each other's goals. They can kick the ball. They can use their head. No one but the goalkeeper can touch it. Rule, 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 rule all directly relates to that first sentence. The rules of soccer are simple. That's how I know that it's my topic sentence. So now what I would like you to do is to pause the program and find the topic sentence in this paragraph. Then come back. The topic sentence here is the last sentence. Of course, soccer requires athletic excellence and physical stamina from its players. They have to run quickly, control the ball skillfully, kick forcefully, and pass precisely. It also requires sharp thinking and powerful teamwork. Individual players and their coaches must plan carefully and communicate effectively to succeed. These are some of the many reasons why soccer is such a great sport, popular all over the world. So what I've done in this paragraph is I've discussed some of the reasons why soccer is such a great sport. First of all, it requires athletic excellence. It requires physical stamina. Players have to run quickly. They have to control the ball skillfully. They have to kick forcefully. They have to pass precisely. In addition, other reasons include the fact that they have to be sharp thinkers, they have to play well together as a team, and then individuals and coaches have to plan carefully and to communicate. So I've given a great many specific reasons why soccer is such a great sport, which explains why it is popular all over the world. Now these guidelines for paragraph form and length apply to expository, persuasive, and descriptive writing. As you've learned in previous programs, expository writing is writing that explains. Persuasive writing is writing that argues a point, and descriptive writing uses the 5 senses. These guidelines rarely apply to narratives. Narratives are stories. That's because narrative paragraphs usually don't have topic sentences. You don't want to explain your main idea. In a narrative, you'd rather lead up to it to create suspense. Furthermore, narratives use dialogue. Every time you change speakers in a narrative, you indent 5 spaces. Therefore, in a short story, maybe a short story of 350 words, you could have 10 different paragraphs because you've got different speakers. So use these guidelines when you write descriptive, expository, and persuasive essays. Now, let's take a look at the nuts and bolts of writing powerful paragraphs. The topic sentence in a paragraph has 2 main purposes. The first purpose is to state the topic, to give the main idea. The second purpose is to grab the reader's attention so the reader wants to go on. Therefore, the topic sentence is the most important sentence in your entire paragraph because it shapes the entire paragraph by defining its contents, and it establishes the paragraph's organization. Topic sentences can take many different forms. You're going to choose the form that suits your purpose and your audience. Here are some of the most common forms. It can be a restatement of the question, a statement of the main idea, an anecdote, which is a brief story. It can be humorous. You can use a quotation as your topic sentence. You can ask a question, or you can give facts, such as statistics. I explain each method in detail and give examples in Program 7, Introductions and Conclusions. Remember that a paragraph covers a single aspect of a larger topic. And when you're forming your topic sentences for your paragraphs, think about Goldilocks and the Three Bears. You don't want it too big. You don't want it too small. You want it just right. Here's an example of one that is just too broad for a single paragraph. Good people sometimes do bad things. Well, that wouldn't be an effective topic sentence for a paragraph because you could develop that into an entire paragraph, entire essay, maybe an entire book, maybe even a series of books, because you could discuss different people, the bad things they do, the reasons why they do bad things. Instead of that one, you would want to narrow it down and cover only one small aspect. Now here's an example of one that's too small. My cat is striped. Where can you go with that? Maybe you could put in one sentence or two sentences, but it's just too narrow a topic for your paragraph. Perhaps you could change that to describing your cat's appearance. You might say, my cat is very, very pretty. I have an unusually attractive Persian cat. Then you could discuss the fur, the stripes, the ears, the tail. That would give you enough for an entire paragraph. Here are two that are just right. Email has largely replaced snail mail for personal correspondence. Well, in this case, you could discuss maybe one or two examples of how email has replaced maybe invitations. Now you send evites rather than conventional invitations, or perhaps now rather than sending letters to your pen pal overseas, you send email to your pen pal. Both invitations and letters are forms of personal correspondence. Here's another one. It is rude to talk on a cell phone in a movie theater. Well, here you might describe how you are disturbing other patrons because they can hear your voice over the movie. And you might give one or two examples, perhaps when you've been at the movies and one of the patrons has done this and it's bothered you very much because you've been unable to hear the movie. So you don't want your topic sentences so broad that they're sufficient for an entire essay or even a book. You don't want them so narrow that you can't get more than one or two sentences. Like Goldilocks, you want them just right. Now let's look at those supporting sentences, the meat of your paragraph. Supporting sentences make your point, explain your ideas, describe your subject, and tell your story. Supporting sentences therefore contain details, examples, opinions, quotations from reliable sources, statistics, anecdotes, any proof that you can give that'll make your point vivid and clear, and if you're writing a persuasive essay, persuasive. Without sufficient support, your paragraph is empty. It says nothing. It's like receiving a beautifully wrapped gift that's empty inside. It leaves your readers feeling dissatisfied. Very often, the difference between an A or outstanding paragraph and a C or an average paragraph is the quality of the detail that you use. The better your detail, the better your support, the better your writing will be. So now what I would like you to do is to pause the program and find the details in this paragraph. Then come back. Here's my answer. They're sometimes called frankenfoods, but some genetically modified foods have the potential to improve the lives of millions. That's my topic sentence. Insects often destroy crops, resulting in devastating financial losses and starvation in developing countries. My details and examples include insects, destroying crops, devastating financial losses, starvation, and developing countries. Notice how specific developing countries is. I don't just say countries. Pesticides are an effective way to kill these pests, but they damage the ecosystem and human health. Pesticides is specific, and then I give two examples. I say they damage the ecosystem and human health. Scientists have created Bt corn genetically modified to resist insects. Bt corn is a specific example. Then I define it by saying it's genetically modified to resist insects. That's a specific example. Since Bt corn does not require pesticides, farmers can grow more corn more cheaply and safely, which helps prevent starvation. Cheaply and safely are specific examples, as is helping to prevent starvation. So, despite fears to the contrary, genetically modified foods like Bt corn can be very beneficial. I have specific examples in there, as in genetically modified foods like Bt corn, but also notice how my conclusion sums up everything that I said in my paragraph. So now what I would like you to do is to pause the program and identify the type of details that appear in this paragraph about world population. Then come back. These details are statistics because they're numbers. Take a look at some of the numbers we have here. We have in 1800, we have population was 1 billion. Now it is over 6.5 billion. Skipping down to the bottom, we have scientists predict that in the year 2100, the population will be 11 billion. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 very good numbers here. This shows me that the majority of the facts in this paragraph are statistics. So now what I would like you to do is to pause the program and identify the types of details in this paragraph about human flight. Then come back. The details are examples because they give specific illustrations. In the 15th century, the Italian artist Leonardo da Vinci sketched many fanciful designs of flying machines. Specific example. Movies such as The Rocketeer, Spy Kids, and Minority Report. Specific examples. A rocket man even flew into the opening ceremony of the 1984 Summer Olympics in Los Angeles. Another specific example. So I'm taking my generalities. People have always dreamed of flying, for example, and I'm backing them up with specific examples. So now what I would like you to do is to pause the program and identify the type of details in this paragraph about DNA fingerprinting. Then come back. The details are quotations from a reliable source. You can tell because you can see the quotation marks that show the speaker's direct words. The entire bottom part of this paragraph is the speaker's direct words. This famous scientist said, "I was on my own in the darkroom at 9:05 on September 10th, 1984, when that pattern came up and I twigged what we had stumbled upon. Just that single bit of X-ray film threw open a door we didn't even know was there. It opened the whole science of forensic DNA." So now what I would like you to do is to pause the program and use the topic sentence, concluding sentence, and details to write a paragraph. You may have to do a little bit of research. Here's your topic sentence. DNA fingerprinting is also being used in many other ways. Here's your concluding sentence. As it becomes increasingly popular, DNA fingerprinting will be used for many other purposes in the future. Here are your details. Chefs in India, to identify specific types of rice, they can then cook each type correctly. Medical researchers, to identify different strains of bacteria so they can fight food-related illnesses. Archaeologists, to help piece together the remains of the Dead Sea Scrolls. emergency personnel, to help identify family members who have been separated from one another because of wars or natural disasters. When you're finished, come back. Here's my answer. Notice the variety that I used in word choice, sentence length, order, and style. DNA fingerprinting is also being used in many other ways. For example, in India, chefs are using it to identify specific types of rice so they know how to cook each type correctly. Medical researchers have used DNA tests to identify different strains of bacteria so they can fight food-related illnesses more effectively. DNA fingerprinting has also been used by emergency personnel to help identify family members separated from one another because of wars or natural disasters. Archaeologists are even using this powerful tool to help them piece together the Dead Sea Scrolls. As it becomes increasingly popular, DNA fingerprinting will be used for many other purposes in the future. So now what I would like you to do is to pause the program and write a paragraph around this topic sentence. What was one cause of the French Revolution? Then come back. Here's my answer. It's likely not to be the same as yours because we both had to do research, and perhaps my research was a little different than yours. Historians still debate the causes of the French Revolution, the bloody conflict that shattered the regime of King Louis XVI in 1789, but they generally agree on the influence of the Enlightenment. That's my topic sentence, and notice how specific it is. I used the word bloody to describe the conflict. I used regime. I used King Louis, specific, I gave his number, and 1789. Now I'm talking about the Enlightenment, so now I need some specific examples. As a result of the writing of the Enlightenment philosophers Voltaire, Diderot, and Turgot, the growing middle class, the bourgeoisie, and the peasants came to believe in individual equality and freedom. I give 3 examples of famous Enlightenment writers. I use the term bourgeoisie because that was the term used to describe the middle class at this time. I mentioned the peasants, and I mentioned individual equality and freedom. The success of the American Revolution demonstrated to them that Enlightenment ideals about democratic governments could indeed be put into practice. Thus, the Enlightenment was one of the crucial factors that caused the French Revolution. So I have 2 examples in there. I have the writing of the Enlightenment philosophers, and I have the American Revolution. I have a topic sentence, which is my first sentence, and I have a conclusion, which is my last sentence. Now let's take a quick look at conclusions. Conclusions are sentences that draw together the main ideas. They leave the reader with a sense of completion. That's because they're logical and they tie up all the loose ends. Conclusions are not announcements of what you have accomplished, as in this essay, I have proven that fungi are beneficial. You don't want to make a public service announcement like that. You don't want to make a sweeping generalization either. All forms of alternative medicine should be avoided, because you can't prove that all forms of alternative medicine should be avoided. That's too big a statement for a paragraph. You also don't want to give an absolute claim. Never believe what you hear in the media, for example, because that you also cannot prove in your paragraph. And last, you don't want to give an apology. Even though I may not have supplied enough information, I hope that you still learned something useful from my paragraph. Don't apologize for your writing, because that weakens your main idea. Effective concluding sentences do not introduce any new information. And, as we said, they don't announce anything, they don't make generalizations, they don't make absolute claims, and they don't offer apologies. Good concluding sentences can take different forms, of course, just like topic sentences. You can restate the main idea, you can give your opinion, and you can make a call for action. You would restate the main idea primarily in expository essays, the essays that explain. You would give your opinion and a call for action in persuasive essays. I explain each method and give examples in Program 7, Introductions and Conclusions. So now what I would like you to do is to pause the program and explain why the underlined concluding sentence is not effective. Then come back. This is not an effective conclusion because it is an announcement of what you have accomplished, and you don't want to do that. In this paragraph, I have explained reasons why some birds have become extinct. You've announced what you've done. Your reader knows that, so you don't have to announce it. This doesn't leave your reader with a sense of conclusion, a sense of things being drawn together, a sense of satisfaction. So now what I would like you to do is to pause the program and choose the best new concluding sentence for the same paragraph. Then come back. All animals are going to become extinct unless we do something soon. Well, all animals are not going to become extinct. Some may be endangered. Some may be actually becoming extinct, but not all animals. So this is a sweeping generalization. You don't want to do that because this is not true. Number 2, I may not have discussed enough animals in danger of extinction, but I hope that you believe me anyway. Well, this is an apology. You don't want to apologize for what you've done because that makes your reader think that you really haven't accomplished very much in your paragraph. Number 3, read on to learn the stories behind 3 extinct birds, a warning for all animals in danger of disappearing. This is the best answer because it sums up the main idea and it makes us want to read on to the next paragraph. So now what I would like you to do is to pause the program and explain why the underlined concluding sentence is not effective. Then come back. This is not an effective conclusion because it is another sweeping generalization. You cannot conclude this from the information provided. All of Picasso's paintings are violent. Well, they're not all violent, but even if they are all violent, you don't know that from the information given in this particular paragraph because this paragraph talks about only one of Picasso's paintings. So this is not a valid answer. So now what I would like you to do is to pause the program and choose the best new concluding sentence for this paragraph. Then come back. Number 1. Maybe you want to learn more, but I gave as much information as I had, and it wasn't that easy to find facts about an old painting. Well, this is not a particularly good ending for 2 reasons. First of all, it's an apology. And second of all, you're sort of whining about it. You know, it wasn't that easy to find facts. This will not work because your reader will feel not my fault that you couldn't find facts. So rather than leaving your reader feeling satisfied, you're going to leave your reader feeling annoyed that you couldn't get the information that you needed. Number 2, in this paragraph, I have shown the reasons why Picasso painted Guernica. This is an announcement of what you've accomplished. Remember, an announcement is not the same as a conclusion. You don't want to give a public service statement. Instead, you want to tie it all up. Number 3, Picasso's famous mural shows the horror and the chaos of war. This is clearly the best answer because it sums up the main ideas in a logical and an accurate way. You showed how Picasso's famous mural showed the horrors and the chaos of war. You're not apologizing, you're not making any kind of sweeping generalizations, and you're not whining about the difficulty of finding the information that you needed. Now, what makes an effective paragraph? Well, good paragraphs are logical, unified, coherent, and fully developed. Let's look at each quality in turn. First of all, you want your paragraphs to be logical. And what this means is, basically, you make sense. You don't have any logical fallacies or errors in logic. You use valid evidence to back up your assertions. You distinguish between facts and opinions. You analyze cause and effect correctly. And most important of all, as we said earlier, you make sense. Let's take a look at each one of these things in detail. Let's start with logical fallacies. A logical fallacy is an error in reasoning. It can be accidental or it can be deliberate, but in either case, it weakens your writing because it undermines your credibility. Ambiguity is confusion. And as a logical fallacy, when you use ambiguity, what you're doing is you're deliberately using a word or an expression that is confusing because it has more than one meaning. Here's an example. As Americans, we have the right to pursue happiness, and we should want to do what is right. So let's make happiness our life's goal. The word right has two different meanings in this sentence. As Americans, we have the right to pursue happiness. Well, the right means that we have the ability to pursue happiness. And we should want to do what is right. Well, that doesn't mean ability. We should want to do what is correct or proper. So we're muddying the water by using the same word in two different senses that don't fit together. You can also create a logical fallacy by arguing to the person. An argument to the person occurs when you attack the person rather than the topic. For example, Mayor Green's proposal to widen the streets should be voted down. After all, this is the same woman who has declared bankruptcy twice. Well, whether or not Mayor Green has declared personal bankruptcy has absolutely no impact upon their proposal to widen the streets. And by attacking the person rather than the plan to widen the streets, you undermine your own credibility because you're not arguing the issue that's on the table. You can also create a logical fallacy by begging the question, which is also called circular reasoning. When you beg the question, what you do is you state your claim, and then you offer proof that is exactly the same as the claim. So you're not really offering any proof. You're simply going around in a circle and saying the same thing over and over. For example, Janice is such a good person because she is so virtuous. Well, by definition, a good person is virtuous. So you're offered no proof. You're simply saying she's good and she's good. Using a synonym or a different word with the same meaning does not offer any proof. There are other logical fallacies as well. For example, you can make a bogus claim. The word bogus means fake, so a bogus claim is a claim that is not valid. For example, you may have seen this kind of thing on late night TV. With these diet pills, you can lose 5 pounds a day without having to exercise. Well, we know that's bogus because there is no pill that you can lose 5 pounds a day without exercising. Even with exercising, you probably can't lose 5 pounds a day, so that's a bogus claim. Card stacking is ignoring evidence on the other side of the issue. So you take all the cards and all the proof on your side and you ignore the opposition. For example, 1 in 5 people surveyed do not believe that the earth is round. Well, it could be that 1 in 5 people questioned it, didn't answer, or maybe they answered, I don't know, or they answered, I don't care. But this writer is not paying any attention to the other people and what they said. That undermines the writer's believability or credibility. It's also a logical fallacy when you offer an either or, one or the other choice. You don't give any other options. This is wrong because there are usually many other choices as well. For example, the case is clear. Either we support the death penalty or we allow crime to run rampant. Well, it's not as simple as that, because you may not want to support the death penalty, and therefore you may offer some other options. You may say perhaps we could have different programs in prisons, or we could have some kind of early intervention. But by offering only two choices, you're undermining your believability. A false analogy is another type of logical fallacy. And this is a misleading comparison. For example, why am I required to take specific classes before I can graduate from this school? No one requires me to buy specific products before I leave the grocery store. In this analogy or comparison, you're comparing school to grocery stores. They cannot logically be compared because they're not similar enough. A school is not a grocery store, and a grocery store is not a school. A school mandates certain courses, such as algebra or trigonometry. A grocery store does not mandate that you do anything. Some people have to go to school because of their age. Nobody has to go to a grocery store. They can shop in other ways. So this is a false analogy because these two things cannot logically be compared. Faulty cause and effect results when you link things that do not belong together. Because B follows A, you assume that A must cause B. Just because two events are related does not necessarily mean that one causes the other. For example, because I had my lucky charm, I passed my math test. Well, no, you probably passed your math test because you studied hard, because you understand the material, you went for extra help, you have a very good teacher, you read the book. Having your lucky charm did not cause you to pass your math test. Another kind of logical fallacy is guilt by association. This is when you attack a person because of the person's friends or other associates. This was the basis of McCarthyism in the 1950s, which we'll talk about in a little bit. Here's an example. Rick Henderson is an embezzler. Therefore, his entire family is crooked. No. Just because Rick is an embezzler does not mean that the rest of his family is an embezzler. You cannot tar his family with the same brush that you used on Rick because the two are not related. You cannot associate them. Now, as you can tell, there's a lot of logical fallacies, which means that it's very important to pay close attention to your logic. Because if not, you can rather easily slip into one of these problems. For example, a hasty generalization. That's when you reach a generalization or a conclusion from inadequate evidence. Stereotyping is an example of a hasty generalization. For example, of course our students are physically fit. Just look at the success of our sports team this year. Well, just because your sports teams are successful does not mean that your students are physically fit. It means only that the athletes on the team are physically fit. The rest of the students may not be physically fit at all. You're forming a generalization that is not valid. Or you could have an irrelevant argument. This is also called a non sequitur. You probably have heard that phrase. It's from Latin, and it means it does not follow. A non sequitur, or an irrelevant argument, is a conclusion that does not relate to the main idea, which is also called the premise. For example, if we could put a man on the moon, why can't we find a cure for the common cold? Well, putting a man on the moon has nothing whatsoever to do with the common cold. They are not at all related. And by linking them, you are bringing in an argument that is not relevant, and therefore you're committing an error in logic. Jumping on the bandwagon is suggesting that something is right just because everybody else is doing it. For example, a recent poll showed that 70% of the American public believes that emissions requirements on automobiles have gone too far. Therefore, these laws are unreasonable and should be repealed. Well, no, the laws might be very reasonable and should not be repealed. And just because people have jumped on that bandwagon does not mean that they are right. It simply means that they are following. A loaded term is a slanted or a biased term. It's especially terms that have strong connotations that evoke positive or negative feelings in your readers. For example, The same group of people could be described as fighting for independence or freedom fighters if you agree with their cause, or you could describe them as separatist movement or rabble-rousers if you don't. The first two descriptions are positive because you agree. The second two descriptions are negative because you don't. Pay very close attention to the words that you choose, that they don't carry connotations, emotional overtones, that will unfairly influence your readers. Next, we have misrepresentation. That's when you deliberately lie. You just don't tell the truth. For example, Hurricane Katrina was caused by an excess of greenhouse gas emissions. That simply is not the truth. Hurricane Katrina was not caused by greenhouse gas emissions. That would be an example of a misrepresentation. You can also oversimplify the issue. That's when you twist the truth by making it much more simple than it really is. Many complex issues are complex because they have multiple causes and effects. And if you reduce it too far, you've oversimplified it and you're no longer telling the truth. For example, people who want to be healthy should eat spinach. My Uncle Louis ate a lot of spinach and he lived to be 99. Well, perhaps you should eat spinach. It probably won't hurt you. But that's too narrow an issue. Uncle Louis lived to be 99 probably because he had good genes, he exercised, he stayed out of the way of moving vehicles, and he didn't smoke. But by presenting only spinach, you're grossly oversimplifying that issue. A red herring is a logical fallacy whereby you divert the issue with an unrelated topic. Now, red herrings are very good to use in fiction, especially in detective stories, because they help create suspense by leading you off the main idea and into an unrelated path. So they're really good in fiction, but they're very not good in nonfiction. For example, I shouldn't have to pay a fine for speeding. The police should be chasing dangerous criminals, not harassing a decent tax-paying citizen like me. Well, your red herring is that the police should be chasing dangerous criminals. That has absolutely nothing to do with the fact that you got a speeding ticket. You got a speeding ticket, you were speeding, you should pay a fine. End of story. But by bringing in the criminals, you're trying to divert your audience from the main idea. That is not an ethical form of reasoning to use in nonfiction. A self-contradiction is when you argue two premises that cannot be true because they cancel each other out. For example, the government should control this unmanageable situation. Well, if it's unmanageable, it cannot be managed, and the government can't control it. Nobody can control it because it cannot be managed. There are other logical fallacies as well. These are the most common. And now that you know these, you'll be on the lookout for all errors in logic in your writing. Remember, too, that logic also includes using valid evidence to back up your assertions. When you use facts or statistics and other examples, be sure to check them in at least 2 reliable sources so you know that they're true. This is especially important when you use internet sources. Make sure that you're using valid sources so your information is solid. Be very careful to distinguish between facts and opinions. Facts are statements that can be proven. You can find them in valid research materials such as encyclopedias or newspapers and good magazines and solid web pages. Opinions are things that people believe. You can use your facts to prove your point, but opinions are a lot more slippery because you cannot prove whether they are right or whether they are wrong. Also be sure to analyze cause and effect correctly. Cause is why something happens, the reasons, and effects are the result. Don't confuse the two. But above all else, make sure that you make sense. When you finish your writing, be sure that you're saying what you think that you're saying, and that your paragraph holds together logically. So now what I would like you to do is to pause the program and find and identify the 2 logical fallacies in the following paragraph. It's from a speech that Wisconsin Senator Joseph McCarthy delivered in 1950, in which he claimed that the State Department was infested with communists. We discussed that briefly before. Then come back. There are two logical fallacies in his argument. The first one is an example of an either-or fallacy. The second one is an example of loaded terms. Remember that an either-or fallacy is when you're offered only two choices when other valid ones exist. The two choices he gives are in the first sentence. Today, we are engaged in a final all-out battle between communistic atheism and Christianity. So he says we have a battle between two things, communistic atheism and Christianity, which simply was not the case. Secondly, he uses loaded terms. These include communistic, atheism, and the chips are down. These are phrases that will evoke very strong feelings in his audience. This was written in the 1950s when the term communism inspired fear in many people. Atheism is a term that some people find very emotional as well. And the chips are down, of course, is a call for battle. So what McCarthy was doing was using logical fallacies to dishonestly twist his words and convince his readers of something that simply was not true. You want to write unified paragraphs. Unified paragraphs have one main idea. You create unity by having every single sentence directly support the topic sentence. What I would like you to do is try it yourself now. Pause the program and find the two sentences that are off the topic. Then come back. In this particular paragraph, the topic sentence is, "That's because cats make excellent pets." So what you're going to do is you're going to find all of the details about cats being excellent pets. For example, they're affectionate. Well, that shows how they're excellent pets. They're clean. That shows how they're excellent pets. The two sentences that jump out because they don't show how cats are excellent pets are, "Vet bills can be high, but that's true of all pets. And my cat, a Persian named Buttons, is 6 years old." Because those two sentences do not show how cats can be excellent pets. So when you create a unified paragraph, you start with your topic sentence and you make sure that every single sentence, all your support, all your details, all your examples relate directly to that topic sentence. You also want to write coherent paragraphs. Coherent paragraphs have their sentence in a logical order. That means the order makes sense to you and to the reader. There are many different kinds of order that you can follow. For example, you could have chronological order, that's the order of time. You could have cause and effect. You could have definition, example, comparison, contrast. Whatever method of organization you choose, every single sentence must follow that pattern for your paragraph to be coherent. You can also create coherence by using transitional words and phrases, as you'll learn in our next program, by using parallelism, and by repeating key words. So now what I would like you to do is to pause the program and rearrange these sentences in a logical order to create coherence. Do not add or delete any information. As you're doing this, look for markers. Look for things like dates. They'll help you realize which sentences go first, second, and so on. Then come back. Here's my topic sentence. How did unsolicited emails come to be called spam? In 1937, the Hormel Company created the word spam for a new spiced ham. In 1937 is my clue. Shows me that I'm using chronological order, and that's my first detail. In 1970, the British comedy show Monty Python's Flying Circus created a skit about a restaurant whose menu featured many different items with spam. Well, in 1970 is a clue that that sentence has to come after the 1937 sentence. Continuing, these started simply with egg, bacon, and spam, but each item got sillier, building to lobster thermidor au crevette with a Mornay sauce garnished with truffle pâté, brandy, and a fried egg on top, and spam. Well, this makes sense because this example directly follows the phrase featured many different items with spam. Then I go to computer programmers took the word from the Python sketch, there's my transition, to identify overrunning a fixed size buffer with too much data. As the internet grew, the term spam came to include the torrent of unwanted emails. And here's my conclusion. That's how spam went from being a luncheon meat to unwanted email. So I work this through by looking for dates, by looking for details, and by looking for things that created logic. We also said that your paragraphs have to be well developed, fully developed, by having sufficient information. Every single sentence has to have enough information so that your reader understands your main idea, especially if you're doing a persuasive essay, so your reader is persuaded that you are correct. Here's an example of a well-developed paragraph. As I read it, look for the specific examples and details. Ants are fascinating creatures, especially in their eating habits. Some ant species eat sweet liquids like nectar. Others eat leaves, seeds, or fungus. Army ants and driver ants, huge ants with sharp jaws, are found in tropical climates. These fierce ants travel in groups of over 1,000 to attack and devour other insects, small animals, and dead meat left by other creatures. When ants find food, they secrete invisible chemicals as they return to the nest. Other ants then follow the trail right to the food, adding more of this chemical. When all the food is gone, the workers no longer secrete the chemical, and eventually the trail fades away. The eating habits of ants are certainly complex and fascinating. My topic sentence, going back to the top, focuses on eating habits of ants. My conclusion picks it up by saying the eating habits of ants. And then I use specific details to develop each of my ideas fully. For example, I have in the second sentence, sweet liquids like nectar. In the third, I have leaves, seeds, and fungus. Then I have army ants and driver ants. All of these specific details help make my paragraph well developed. So now what I would like you to do is to pause the program and write a paragraph on a topic of your choosing that is logical, unified, coherent, and well developed. Then come back. Up till now, every paragraph I've given you has been self-contained. It appears that they've all been perhaps introductory paragraphs in an essay. But what we've done, you'll do the exact same thing when you write middle paragraphs, second paragraphs, third paragraphs, fourth paragraphs, and so on. So when you wrote this paragraph, perhaps you wrote the middle paragraph of an essay rather than writing the first paragraph. And that's fine too, because you're following the same basic format, except you're going to link it to the paragraphs above and below it. You'll learn how to do this linking in our next program with connections and transitions. So now you have this paragraph in front of you. Use this checklist to evaluate it. Is my paragraph logical? Does it make sense? Did I correct any logical fallacies that I might have made? Is my paragraph unified? Is every single sentence related directly to my topic sentence? Is my paragraph coherent? Are my sentences in the correct order? And is my paragraph well developed? Is it fully developed? Have I used sufficient detail to make my point clearly? Well, we've come to the end of our program. I hope that you found this instruction helpful and that you've learned some things that you can use to take your written communication to the next level. Be sure to join us in the next program in Video Aided Instructions Upgrade Your Writing series, Connections and Transitions, where you'll learn some more ways to give your paragraphs and entire essays unity and coherence. Thank you for watching.
When you're serious about learning an academic subject or scoring high on a test, there's just one name to know: Video Aided Instruction. We don't waste your time with goofy skits, corny jokes, or silly sing-alongs. We get right to the point. Real teaching by real teachers. Visit us online at videoaidedinstruction.com to learn more about our exciting line of educational programs. As we say here at Video Aided Instruction, press play to learn.
Do you want to earn better grades in school or boost your scores on standardized tests? Do you want to increase your fluency in English or improve your communication skills at work? Or do you simply want to relearn those forgotten grammar rules? Well, look no further. Video Aided Instructions English Grammar Series is a great resource for everyone, whether you're new to English or you've been speaking it for years. Our one-of-a-kind series can help you master even the most complicated grammar topics. Be sure to view the entire series: English grammar sentence structure, parts of speech, sentence complements, verbs, pronouns, agreement, modifiers, parallel structure, punctuation, and spelling and capitalization. So don't let mistakes in English grammar embarrass you or hold you back. Let Video Aided Instruction help you eliminate them from your speaking and writing forever. If you're getting ready to take your SAT, don't forget, your score can make or break your chances of getting into the college of your dreams. That's where Video Aided Instructions SAT Series, a complete SAT course on DVD, can make all the difference. Our comprehensive SAT series will help you prepare thoroughly with insider strategies for making sense of tough reading passages and sentence completions, mastering the tricky rules of grammar, usage, and mechanics, crafting a well-written, high-scoring essay, unraveling those mind-boggling math problems, avoiding lengthy computations by using proven shortcuts, and much more. Get that all-important edge over the competition with SAT Critical Reading, SAT Writing, and SAT Math. After viewing these exceptional programs, you'll be able to take the stress out of SAT success and maximize your score.